You guys are here for proposal management for estimators, brought to you by the American Society of Professional Estimators. My name is Luke Wade. I'm your host, and I'm really excited to kick this whole thing off. Thanks again for everybody to join us. A couple housekeeping items. If you joined us late, we just finished the networking. You're going to want to make sure your chat is open. It's right down here if you're on a computer. I will chat some more information for you so that pops up and you get a little notification. If you're on your mobile phone, make sure and double tap the screen, click participants, and then chat. That's going to pop up. That's how you're going to be able to interact with the presentations, the presenters. You're going to be able to ask questions. And do me a favor, once you have your chat open, just type me a hello in there, type me a hi, whatever you want to say there. Let me see you chat in there so I know you got that. There we go. Kate's there. Kelly's there. Hello, Hayley. Robin, Waddell, please make sure and update your name. That's the other thing. If you want to click the 3 dots next to your name, hit rename so we know who you are. That would be great. I see a lot of people here. Lane, Randy Green, Kelly, Rick, Cliff, Lonnie. We got a lot of people chatting there. Thank you so much. So that's how you're going to communicate with us during the presentation. Feel free to ask questions at any time. We're going to keep track of those, and at the end of the presentation, you're going to be able to get those answered. Also, we did send out an email with 2 documents that they're going to be using during the presentation for interaction and engagement. One of you or a couple of you might be able to get to actually present your questions to everyone and get highlighted there. So make sure you check your email and get those downloaded and have those ready. That being said, I think we are ready to go. I'm going to pass it off to my favorite person, Mr. Eric. Eric, are you ready to go? You want to say hello? You want to say hello, Eric, before we pass it over to the presentation?
I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked, Luke. And by the way, Luke and Casey Crew have done a wonderful job of setting this thing up. We wouldn't have done it without you, Luke. Okay, I want to talk about my board. Can you bring up my board members?
There you go.
Okay, so I know Lonnie's on. I saw Lonnie. I saw Kelly. We're going to talk about, okay, so upper left corner, Lonnie Mills is our president. Lonnie, you still there? I know he is because I saw him. Hi, Lonnie. Flynn Group. I am the second vice president this year. I'm a 2-time past president, but I am with Hermes Landscaping. I'm at sales and business development. We have Kelly Jarman. She's our treasurer for life. Thank you, Kelly, for all your great service. I think I've known her for 20 years. She's with J. Dunn Construction. She's a senior estimator and cost historian, okay? Next up is Phil Turner. I don't know if Phil's here or not. He's having some, I think he had to get a bid out tonight, but he's a national guy. He works with, what is it? Yeah, he works with, he does a national and works with the group that does the awards. Phil's, their whole board here has been together about 10 or 15 years. Next is Greg Weinberg down in the lower corner there. He's with National Commercial Builders. He's vice president executive of pre-construction with National Commercial Builders. In the center at the bottom, we have Cate Clements. She's an estimator with McCown Gordon Construction. And she's been very good about, she chairs our event called the Trivia Night, which will be in October. It'll be at McCown Gordon. We haven't worked out the details yet, but that's basically what's going to happen there. And then down on the right is Dave Cook. David Cook is with Aegis Fire Protection. He is our videographer. His chief title, though, is he's the Chief Invitation Officer of ASPE Chapter 32. So Dave sends out 14,000 emails a week prior to these events. So if anybody's here tonight, I would say 90% of you saw Dave's email. Thank you, Dave, wherever you are. And with that, I think I'm going to give it back to Luke and let him introduce our speakers tonight.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And you are still on the screen. Good to see you. Thanks, Eric, for helping put this whole thing together.
No, you put
for joining us.
We just found you. I was sitting next to Luke at the Kansas City Social Media Club event, annual awards event, and Luke got up on the stage and presented I was like, this guy's on fire. We've got to use him for ASPE. So here we are, first time ever, virtual event. Luke put it all together.
Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate that. Thank you to ASPE, and thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. I think we are ready to get the presentation started. I'm sure you guys are all ready. I'm going to pass off the screen to one of our amazing presenters. And if you are just joining us, make sure your chat is open. Joe Davis, yo, how are you? Cliff, how are you? Cate, are you ready? Let's see if I can find you in here amongst all, or sorry, Kat, I apologize. Kat, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. All right. If you could disable the screen sharing, that would be awesome. Okay, I'll give it a second. There we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen all right?
Yep, we can see it, Kat.
Cool.
Thumbs up on the video if you can see the screen.
Awesome. Just a friendly reminder to keep your phones out. We do have a polling feature in some of our slides, and we're going to encourage you to play along with us. So have it handy. That's probably the only time you'll hear that. But Kevin, I'll go ahead and give it away to you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. This is Kevin Waddell, Burns & McDonnell, pre-construction and estimating section manager for our water global practice. So appreciate everybody joining in and taking the time from your home or wherever you may be this evening to spend about 45 minutes to an hour with us and hopefully learn a little bit about proposal writing. So we're going to try to keep this, as fairly light as possible and have a little fun with it. Try to keep you from nodding off at your desk or wherever you may be sitting. And we'll go from there. So this first slide is kind of captures everything that I know as a young estimator. When I got my first RFP, you get your RFP and you're like, wait a minute, what is this thing, right? What am I doing? Can my company even handle something like this? Do we have the people to put together the proposal? What are we going to do? And poor old Dilbert here has been tasked with, looks like the impossible task of responding to an RFP that apparently he doesn't think they can win. So I know we've all been there and done that. And hopefully after this presentation tonight, you'll go walk away with some strategies and some best practices to avoid this situation right here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cliff Cate, and I'll be talking to you throughout the night. So enjoy the presentation, everybody.
All right. Hey, thanks, Kevin. As you can see, these are the rest of the presenters tonight, and I'll let each one of us introduce ourselves. But my name's Cliff Cate. I'm the director of our business development with Burns & McDonnell out of our water group. Hayley, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. Hayley Watkins here. I've been in the proposal world for the architecture, engineering, and construction space for the better part of 10 years. So looking forward to kind of imparting some of my knowledge with you guys today and give you guys some resources that you can check out to implement some best practices at your firm.
Hi, I'm Cate Becchina. I've been at Burns & McDonnell for 6 years, and that's also how long I've been into the proposal industry. I work with Kevin, Cliff, and Hayley as well on water infrastructure proposals, also in the AEC firm. So I'm excited to talk to you guys today and do a little presentation. So glad you guys tuned in.
All right. So it's actually my attention just got pulled away just a second ago. I heard a ice cream truck going by. So it's like that's first of the summer, but I'm like, is that really following codes? I'm not sure. So anyway, sorry for my attention being pulled away. Squirrel over here. So it's actually kind of funny because today my son approached me. He's got this grandiose idea because he has so much free time that he wants to buy a gaming computer, and he's got money in his bank account because he's been saving it. And so he finally came up to me and asked me about it today, and he's like, Dad, I want to buy this. I was like, okay, so tell me about your computer. Why are you buying this? There's other things. And he's like, I'm buying it because I want a game, and I've got the money in here. I can do this, this. He goes, I don't even need to ask you if I really need it because I can buy it. I've got the money here. And I was like, wait a second. I said, if a computer shows up out here, he goes, it's going to make a nice anchor for my boat. I said, but first, I said, what I want you to do, I was like, I'm not going to say no. I said, but I want you to put a proposal together for me. And he's like, what? I said, I want you to put a proposal together for me. I said, tell me about the computer. Tell me why you want to buy it. Tell me how much it's going to cost and how you're going to pay yourself back for it. I said, but these are the things that I'm really interested in knowing about. I want to know, the virus protection. how much time you're going to spend on it, you know, how much it's going to cost, and these other things. Like, what are you talking about? So he came in and he had a short little paragraph, and he said, Dad, I'm going to buy this because I want to do this. I'm going to umpire this. I was like, no. I said, I want a formal proposal. It's like, get to know me, know what I want. And so anyway, I sent him back. He's rewriting the proposal. So, but apparently he's not sitting through our presentation tonight. I should have just had him sit through here so he could learn. But so one of our goals today is really to give you tips and tricks on how to be more strategic in chasing pursuits and responding to RFPs. And the last thing you want to be is a repository for RFPs. Responding to everything that comes through the door and neglecting or not focusing on projects that are right for you. So we use a combination of industry best practices, such as these organizations, Shipley, APMP, Sandler Training, and others, to develop a process that works for us. And even that's even modified when we get feedback from clients and lessons learned. So after we even pursue a project, put a proposal together, we're also going back and modifying our process. And not all processes are the same, and not all processes work for everyone. But what is important is for you to find and develop a process that works for you and your organization, that's repeatable so you can become more efficient in responding to RFPs and become more successful in winning. Now, there are a lot of resources and organizations out there that provide great training, great books, podcasts, and tips that help you that you can develop a process. And the last slide had some of those places that provide training. They provide some great books, and they also offer podcasts. So we're going to talk about some of those a little bit later on as well. So here's an easy way to start. We've boiled down the sample process into 3 key steps to help give you a starting point in building your own process. 1, building the client relationship. 2, identifying opportunities early. And 3, developing the proposal and winning business. Now, this process usually is done in conjunction with a sales and a proposal manager. However, sometimes that's the same person. And if you're a one-man operation, it's usually you doing everything. What we've also done is we provided a worksheet to give you some starting points, which was, I think it was emailed out earlier, Luke did earlier. Now, this can be tailored as you need for your business line. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So take a look at it. It works for us. It can work for you. You can modify it however you want. It's a spreadsheet, so it's yours to work with. So just as a sample. But the process really starts with building relationship and identifying opportunities early. Now, I just said those first 2 together because they can really be interchanged based on the situation. Well, let's start with identifying target clients and qualifying them. So certainly you can continue to chase bids and clients through bid websites like your competitors, or you can be in control and develop you can be strategic in selecting the clients you want to work with and spend your time qualifying and developing relationships with those clients. Now, you may not know the specific opportunities with these clients yet, but by developing the relationship, you'll find meaningful opportunities and possibly create your own opportunities that fit your expertise. Now, the first question you may be asking is, how do I find these potential target clients? And I'd say you're already doing that, being a part of this great organization. So being a part of an industry organization like ASPE, where you're talking the same talk, where you can talk about partnerships and opportunities, these are great places to learn about clients you want to work with. Other places are networking at conferences or even developing relationships with engineering firms, suppliers, or vendors that do a lot of what you do. Next slide, Kat. So obviously, an ideal client may look a little bit different for each person and for each market. But what's important is to evaluate what you consider to be an ideal client. And at the very least, these are some ideas you should look for. 1, they conduct their business with integrity, that they have a substantial or long-term need for what you offer, and they aren't just in the market for the cheapest, lowest price, that they see value in your team, what it brings. And finally, could be one of the most important, is they have the funds to pay you for the work. Again, these are just some things to consider for an ideal client for you. We usually write this out on the board and have it all plotted out and then figure out who's our ideal client. But our nature of business, what we're all in for, is relationship driven. And it's never too early and it's never too late to start developing that relationship. I tell a lot of my young engineers that we're going to work a lot of hours. We're going to work hard. We're going to work long hours, and we're going to spend a lot of time with the people that we work with, but also with the people that we work for. So take advantage of those times and develop friendships that last a lifetime. And I'm sure we all have our separate stories of how we've developed relationships with our clients, but as a young engineer, I worked on many projects with many clients, and usually paired up with a young engineer on the client side that was matching my level of experience. But one of my best friends today was one of my early clients, and we became friends because we had the same desire, and that was to solve the same problem. And over the years, both of us have changed jobs, but through each change, we remained friends and we continued our business relationship working on projects together. And again, I know you have these same types of relationships that you've had, but we're both now in decision-making roles. That friendship continues to grow. We're still great friends. We're working together and we're working on bigger projects together. But it really started early on in our careers, building those relationships and developing and building that loyalty and friendship that you can ask for work, that you can be honest with your client. The client can be honest with you, so you can learn from your mistakes and grow as a business and grow your work. So selling is really about listening, understanding, and easing their pain. It's not just about closing the deal. It's about finding what really drives them and find a way to make their lives easier. So when you're talking to your clients, or better yet, when you're listening to your clients, organize your notes and thoughts after you have a conversation with them. Track the opportunity, whether that's a journal, a spreadsheet, or if you have a client relationship management program, hey, that's great. But track what you're listening and track that opportunity from the day you hear it to the day you win it. But don't forget, there's always more than one person that makes that decision. So don't focus all your time on just one person. I'm going to ask a question. Nobody's going to be able to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does anyone know the importance of this number, 6.8? It actually used to be 5.4 3 years ago.
If anybody wants to answer, they could answer in the chat. If you want to take a guess, feel free to answer in the chat.
I'm not going to give them time to answer. So according to the Harvard Business Review, there are 6.8 decision makers per project. That's 6.8 different perspectives. And each one of these individuals span a wide variety of roles, teams, functions, and geographies. They have 8 different priorities, 6.8 different priorities, 6.8 authorities, and different levels of knowledge of what their solution actually does in the first place and why it really matters. So in other words, that's 6 opportunities to say no to your proposal or to your bid. So it's not so much that there are more people in a sale that makes things so hard, but that there are so many new perspectives. And getting to understand each one of those perspectives is what makes you successful. So now that we've identified our target clients, started the relationship building, and have found out about a possible opportunity, we need to start positioning ourselves for that opportunity. So first off, we continue to grow the customer relationship. Collect information needed to prepare a great proposal for that client focused, especially with a new client. We can't walk in the door on day one and get to the heart of what they're really looking for and what's driving their needs. Now that sort of thing takes time. So we need to start long before the RFP is released. Also, a lot of time when the RFP is released, there's a cone of silence. And anything that the client tells us, they have to tell the competition. So we need to get in there and get our answers before the RFP. This will also drive what type, if any, teaming opportunities are needed to complete that project. So once you have all this information, it's now important to make some real tough decisions on whether this is a go or a no-go on the pursuit. Hayley's going to talk you through the rest of this process. Hayley?
Thanks, Cliff. So Cliff walked through the importance of building relationships, which we all understand the importance of, and then also identifying those opportunities early. So Kat and I are going to take you the rest of the way home with the actual soup to nuts of proposal development, and ultimately our entire goal here is to win more.
So just an FYI, this is usually the part in our practice sessions where I get the Home Alone gif from Hayley and Cate, that where it's Kevin's mom yelling, "Kevin!"
Yep. Are you there?
They would ask me a question, I would zone out. So I'm focused, Hayley, I'm here.
Okay, good. Good. All right, Kat, if you want to go forward one more. Awesome.
Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, so if you text BMCD1 to 22333, and we just want to kind of gauge, do you have a go, no-go process? Do you not have a go, no-go process? Or are you wondering what a go, no-go process or decision is? So I'll give you a minute or so to submit your responses. So far, 100% say yes. All right. Give it another couple seconds here. So far, it looks like we either have one or we're hoping to learn about what a go, no-go is. All right. Still moving just a little bit. All right, Kat, let's go ahead and move forward. You should still be able to submit your responses, but we're going to go ahead and move on and talk about what a go, no-go process, a decision point is, and why it's so important. As Cliff mentioned, you could be spending a lot of time and energy and resources pursuing a project, but once that RFP comes out, that's really your decision point of, do we continue to invest our time and resources into this opportunity and this project, or do we no-go it? And there's a lot of potential questions that you want to ask yourself with your leadership and your team that can help you get to that answer. Should we go or should we pass on this opportunity? Some companies have formal Excel spreadsheets that automatically calculate a score, but I really think the most important part with the go, no-go process is the discussion around some of these questions. So the first question, do we have a solution to the client's issue? If we don't, we probably should not be pursuing this project, and that would be an automatic showstopper in my book. Do we know what's keeping the client up at night? This is beyond what's in the RFP. This really gets to what's their biggest risk on this project, and what is their biggest concern with moving this project forward. If we don't know those things, it's going to be really hard for us to explain in our proposal how we can mitigate those risks. As Cliff mentioned, the 6.8 number, do we know those decision makers? And more importantly, do they know us, and how do they perceive our team? Are we positively viewed, negatively viewed? Are we unknown? Are there any potential conflicts of interest? So maybe you go after this phase 1 of the project, and in some cases that could preclude you from phase 2. So thinking about your business goals and initiatives and whether or not there could be a conflict of interest there. This is my favorite one. Have we met with the client or talked to them about this specific opportunity in the past couple weeks or months? Back when the world was open and we were living our best lives and going to conferences and golf tournaments and happy hours, our sales team would come back and say, oh yeah, I talked to client so-and-so, or I talked to this client. But did you actually talk about this specific opportunity? It's so important to have those friendships like Cliff mentioned, but at some point it's time to get down to business and talk about the opportunity at hand. And then the last one, most important for the future of your company, your organization, is, does this opportunity align with your goals and set you up for success? So these are just a few considerations to think about when you're deciding, do I go after this opportunity or do I not? And let's just assume for the sake of this presentation that all of these were, yes, these are positive and we decided to go forward. So let's talk about the actual proposal development process. I think it's in our nature, anytime we get an RFP, to be a little bit anxious and excited and want to start working on the proposal right away. But I always like to tell people, let it breathe like a bottle of good wine. Once the RFP comes across, let it breathe a little bit. Let your proposal team have the time to digest the content, digest the requirements before you all meet for your kickoff. It also gives you or a proposal manager, a marketing coordinator, the chance to put together a plan and an outline and really plan for that kickoff meeting. So let's talk about the kickoff meeting, why that is so important. Really, there's 4 big buckets of content and collaboration that you should have at your kickoff meeting. The first is general opportunity information, and this seems pretty straightforward. When is this thing due? Who's the contact person? When are questions due? But the one thing that I always like to outline as well is production requirements. You'd be surprised that there's probably people even on this call. I know there's people that I know through the proposal world that have been thrown out of procurements because they used a size 11 font versus a size 12, or their margins were 1 inch versus a half of an inch. So taking what can sometimes be really complex RFPs and boiling that down to the must-know details is so important at your kickoff. The second bucket is your team and your strategy. So who's your construction manager going to be? Who's your project manager going to be? Who's your estimator going to be? All of the people that are going to help sell this project for you. Along with that is your past experience. So what projects have you done in your past? What's on your firm's resume to sell to this project as well? And then lastly, what are your strengths? So going back to what's keeping your client up at night, their biggest risks. How do our strengths align with those? And how can we help mitigate their concerns about the project that you're going after? The third bucket is the proposal schedule. So important, but I think oftentimes gets overlooked. We always consider the key proposal dates. When is the bid due? When's the proposal due? When are questions due? But it's so important to also outline when writing is due. So when's your pins down? When are certain pieces of the content due to either the proposal manager or the person who's responsible for owning the final document? And making sure that everyone is agreeing to those due dates as well. It's also important to schedule review meetings. So we'll talk about review meetings at the end, but I hope that everyone on this call is always having reviews for their proposals. I know it's not always the case, but we'll talk about why those are important and the main things to consider during those reviews. And then lastly, with the schedule, especially in today's times, is production time and shipping and delivery. I know I've been a victim of UPS and FedEx screwing me over more times than I care to count. And especially right now, if you have to ship a proposal with the delayed shipping times, taking that into account when you're developing your proposal schedule ahead of the kickoff meeting.
You know, Hayley,
Yeah.
this slide is really good. And, the proposal schedule part of it, in my opinion, is so important. And we're experiencing this now, aren't we? The Blue River proposal team, where we're all working remotely, and we have a $150 million proposal due in less than a month, and trying to pull this off remotely and not being able to interact as much as we probably would like. Having your schedule that you put together for us and those check-in meetings has been so invaluable. So I just think this is a great slide. And for those of you joining our presentation, that the schedule part of it's really important, especially in today's environment, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the remote nature of our work now. You can have the best content in the world, you can have the best proposal in the world, but if it doesn't get there in time, it means absolutely nothing. So your schedule is incredibly important. So thanks for that, Kevin. The fourth bucket, and is also incredibly important, is the proposal outline. Everyone who has a writing assignment should come away from the kickoff meeting knowing exactly what they're supposed to be writing, what they're responsible for, and when their due date is. So these are the 4 big buckets that we like to consider must-haves during a kickoff meeting. Of course, you can talk about other things as well, your pricing strategy, your estimating strategy, whatever that might be. But these, in our opinion, are the 4 key buckets to discuss at your kickoff. So after your kickoff, your team goes away and it's time to put pen to paper. Cate's really going to get into the nitty gritty best practices when it comes to proposal writing and making sure that your message is getting across to your evaluators. But one point before we go there is related to this quote. There's no such thing as good writing. There's only good rewriting. None of us are excellent writers. We are all victims to writer's block from time to time. And so we are big proponents of starting with an outline, whether that's a pretty basic outline in Microsoft Word, or if you're more of a sticky note type of person and you have sticky notes all around your office, whatever it takes to get your thoughts in order before you actually start writing is so important. And then also making sure that you have a content library of some kind. It doesn't have to be a sophisticated system. It can be just a file structure on your server, but making sure that you have a place to stash your great proposals that you've written in the past so that you know, oh, this was a great management plan that we wrote. Maybe let's pick that one up and tailor it for this opportunity. I'm not a fan of boilerplate text, but I am a fan of repurposing that boilerplate text and tailoring it to the opportunity at hand. So Kat, do you want to get into some more of the writing components?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Hayley mentioned, it's really important to have that full kickoff and really go through the details. Make sure everyone on the team understands what they're responsible for, those writing sections. So I understand it can be a little bit daunting because, you know, you did the homework and you've got your outline. Okay, so now what? Where do I really start? And I think that last slide really hit on it. And it's there's no such thing as good writing; it's all rewriting. So I like to always start with that outline and really just put bullets and just kind of section ideas and thoughts out. And as you do that, really ask yourself what matters to the client. You know, always keep that subject of your writing in mind, which is the client. So what do they want? What are they struggling with? So start asking yourself those questions and just bullet that text out, come back to it later and really start to develop the narrative. So as you write those pieces down, really ask yourself, so what? Are you really answering what the client needs, what they want? Are you providing them a solution to their problems? And then also ask, why us? Why is the client going to choose us versus our competitors or anyone else? Really, the whole goal of your writing is to give those busy evaluators a chance to say, yes, this is why I want them. Make it easy for them. Also quantify where you can in your writing. That's really important. So if you can save the client time or money on a project or increase the value, make sure you say so and really back up those claims. But at the end of the day, it really is all about the client. It's not about us. It's about what we can provide and what we can deliver to them. So get your phones out again. Again, text BMCD1. So if you already did it on that first slide, all you have to do is enter A or B and respond to that text. You don't have to do this again. So I want you to put your hat on and pretend your client hat on and pretend you're a client. So as we read each of these statements, I want you to answer, yes, this provides benefit to me as a client, or no, it does not provide benefit. So at Acme Company, our culture is awesome. We're not only the best, we're not only the biggest, we are the best. So would you say, yes, that provides value and benefit to the client, or no, it does not? I'll give you guys a second. This is very entertaining watching these things bounce back and forth. All right. I think we've quit moving. So let's spend a minute here. So the answer is actually no. Really, this isn't providing any benefit to the client. All we're doing is bragging about ourselves. We didn't follow it up with that, so what? You know, if you're thinking about purchasing something, okay, so what, you're the biggest and best. Why does that matter? So if it were to follow it up with another sentence that really answered that, then absolutely, we could make a case for this being, yes, a benefit to the client. Okay, here's another one. Acme Company has experienced personnel awaiting your assignment. So yes, this provides benefit to the client, or no, there's no benefit. Got some good answers there. I can see in the chat some people are answering as well, so thank you for doing that. Got a few no's in the chat. Okay. All right, so this one was but this is also a no. This is not a benefit. So again, so what? Why is it important that we've got personnel awaiting assignment? Also, another trick to keep in mind is if you can swap out your company name for another competitor's name without having to change the rest of the sentence, that's kind of a surefire way of saying, okay, this really isn't a feature or a differentiator that makes us stand out from the competition. So again, if you were to follow that up with something else, maybe this is a big program or a big project where they know they're going to have a large execution team is needed for this project, then maybe that would be a little bit different, but you really need to follow it up with that so what statement and really think again in the client's shoes, what's the benefit to me? So this one was actually a no. Okay,
Yeah,
here's your last one.
If I was a client, I might ask myself, well, why do they have people not working? Right.
Right. Well,
They're
there's a little
awaiting my
bit
assignment. So
yeah, there's a little bit of detail lacking there too, you know? So again, that's so what? Why does this matter? Okay, so Acme Company is located only 10 minutes from your facility. Our team can quickly be on site to conduct progress meetings, oversee construction, and immediately address any challenges should they occur. So yes, this is a benefit to the client, or no, this is not a benefit to the client. I see some yeses on the chat. Thank you for chiming in. Give you guys just a second. Oh, Cliff, I know you have a cell phone. How dare you type in the chat?
At least he's getting the answers right.
You know, that's true. So thank you, Hayley. This is yes. So really, our feature is that we're only 10 minutes from the facility, but the benefit is that we can quickly be on site to answer any challenges they may have, run through progress meetings, oversee construction. So those are really the benefits to the client, and that's what matters to them. So good job, guys. This was a yes. Okay, so also in your writing, it's really important to use active voice as much as possible. It flows better, it's easier to understand and read, and it really puts the emphasis on the subject of the sentence, and it makes it more straightforward and concise. It's also much more confident and persuasive and decisive. You also want to make sure that your writing is clear. So for me, coming from the AEC world, you know, I support engineers a lot on proposals, and they always send me like pages upon pages upon pages of all of this really technical text. And part of my job is to really read through it, and I hate to say this, but dumb it down. Because if you think about, like Cliff mentioned earlier, you have a lot of different perspectives that are reviewing these proposals. So you might have some procurement folks on the team reviewing this who don't really get into the weeds on that technical information, but they also have a say in who wins this proposal. So you really want to make sure that the writing is clear and easy to understand. So a good measure is to use a 7th or 8th grade level of readability. You can easily check this out in Word. It's a really simple feature. If you do a quick Google, you can find it easily. So at Burns & McDonnell there for a while, we were doing a lot more of like the collegiate level. So if you're thinking of a reviewer's standpoint, if you're making it hard for them to read and understand your concepts and choose you, then you're really not doing yourself any favors. Your job is to make it easy for those busy evaluators. You know, we responded to a bid, and there was 13 other firms who responded. So if you think about reading 13 other companies' proposals, I mean, you're going to read through the one that makes the most sense, it's clear, it's active, and you know, the one that makes it easy for you to say, yes, this is answering all of my problems. You also want to make your writing credible. So I kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but you want to quantify your claims. So again, if you can save the client time, money, improve the value of their project, or for example, if you say that you're the safest company for this job, and that's a huge pain point for the client, make sure that you back that up. So use those industry rankings, client awards, and even client quotes. Again, if you're talking about how you have this proven process that's going to save them money and you did it on another project, there's nothing better than reading that testimonial from a client saying the exact same thing. So really, again, use that active voice, make your writing clear, and be credible in your writing. Okay, so here's the fun part. We've got a little exercise. So there was a second document that Luke sent out, and I think he's going to probably put it into the chat here too, but it looked like a cover letter. So far we went through a lot of things here. We talked about credible writing, using active voice, being clear in your writing, and really thinking about the client as you're developing those statements. So go ahead and get that little sheet out, or you can just read it here on the screen, whatever works for you. If you want to type it out on the side, feel free to do that. Or if you want to just hand note or keep some ideas, I'm gonna ask some participation here in a second. So this is meant to be fun and silly. I'll give you a little bit of background on your client. His name is Joe Exotic. If you don't know him, he is a very interesting character, but he has this RFQ released because he needs some upgrades and expansion work at his animal park. So the cages are falling apart. There's tons of mud in the facility or in the habitat. So you can see that picture up there of the tiger. It's super, super muddy. They're expecting more tigers. They want someone local in case there's an emergency repair needed, because no one wants 100 tigers out loose in the middle of Oklahoma. He's also been burned in the past from a former contractor. So the price estimate was way off than the actual final cost. So that's a real pain point for him. So now what I want you to do is just take a few seconds, read through this, skim through it, and really put those practices in place that we talked about. So active voice, making sure the client's needs are put first, asking that so what, that why us claim. And it's okay to like get creative and make stuff up at this point. It's okay if you're just pulling out things out of your hat just to make it look better. So I'll give you guys a second, more than a second, a few seconds. Because I know 30 seconds on a virtual webinar goes by painfully slow.
Yeah, what was it like to work with Joe Exotic for this proposal? Was it fun?
You know, he was really demanding. He had a lot of mood swings. The tigers were pretty though. Okay, give you guys just a few more seconds. Oh, Cliff. I don't think Kevin looks at all like Joe Exotic. Maybe next time. All right, guys.
If I pulled out my 80s wig, I'd look exactly like him.
There you go. The mullet. The bleach blonde mullet works every time. All right, guys. Does anybody have, or does anybody want to share some of their suggestions? Luke's gonna, if you just raise your hand in the chat, Luke's gonna unmute you and you can kind of share your ideas.
Yeah, so go ahead and chat me, or raise your hand, and we'd love to have you share what you wrote down. If you're interested in sharing, don't be shy. No
Yes.
judgment here. This is a safety zoo, safety Joe Tiger exhibit.
I mean, we're using Joe Exotic as an example. Like, this is a totally safe place. Okay, so I see someone wrote in the chat that these instead of this. Nice catch. I did that intentionally, so you did catch a typo. Nice job. Does anybody have any suggestions on how to make this better, or any observations that Greg, I'm going to call on you because you and I were in a breakout session twice together, and now I know your name.
Like Stephanie's got some feedback. Stephanie, you want to share some more feedback with us? Yeah, she does. Stephanie, oh, has no volume, so I can't unmute her.
Hi.
No
Oh, no.
audio from Stephanie. You said
Oh,
We
Greg?
are.
I was going to say take off the pictures and then also the header with the date. It's all out of order. And it's like someone copy and pasted their information, then take out information from a previous proposal that they probably did.
That's probably, that's a really great point. Hayley, if you're picking something, then, that's an immediate throw out. If a client's reading through it and they're like, wait a minute, this isn't us at all, they know exactly what you did. And it's kind of like, okay, you couldn't take the time to really respond to this. So that's a really great point.
Kat, I apologize. You cut out just a little bit after you said Hayley. Could you just repeat that for us?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so Hayley mentioned boilerplate, which can be a slippery slope. So if you're picking up an old proposal and doing a find replace for a client's name, that's a really easy way to get thrown out, because if you miss a client name, and they're reading through it and they realize, oh, that's not us, they're gonna see that and be like, oh, okay, so you couldn't even respond, you just did copy paste and picked up an old one. So that's a great point.
Looks
I have a comment. This is Eric Bosch. Unless the proposal really asks you to list these in numerical, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, that just seems like a turnoff to see a proposal come back that way unless you ask for it in that manner. So it seemed like it would flow better if there was more of a paragraph written about why you should choose this. And maybe you shouldn't say that word. Why should you choose this? Maybe you should come up with a better solution for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe here are the benefits that Zoos R Us will provide the GW Animal Park, or will provide your facility, something like that. I'm kind of okay with the numbers, because if you think about how many letters and how many proposals that a reviewer has to read, you kind of really section it out and get to the point faster, so they know exactly where they need to go to. Now, having said that, you need to make sure that what you're writing is really good and really makes sense to them and is a benefit to them.
We have time.
Okay, so Danielle, yeah, it looks like Danielle has something here. She says, can you unmute, Danielle?
Danielle, you are unmuted.
Hi, go ahead and share.
So it talks about where they say they understand GW's drivers for these upgrades and will deliver you solutions. I think that's a pretty kind of generic, vague statement, and you should sell more on what your solutions would be, what they're looking for.
That is absolutely right. Yeah, because you can copy and paste that, like Stephanie said, from any other proposal. So what specifically are those solutions? What can you really do for me? So that's a great point. I'll also just mention too, like, look at those bulleted numbers that, someone else called out. Look how many times we mention ourselves. Zoos are us, zoos are us, zoos are us, on every single one. Like, it takes you a minute to figure out who the heck the client is, because all you see is zoos are us. That's not great. We're not thinking about the client at all. We're really just talking about ourselves. So again, making sure you've got those so what statements, those real feature or benefits for the client when you're going through your writing. So great job, you guys.
Oops,
yeah,
sorry.
I saw
one more from Matt. Matt's been chatting me a little bit.
Oh yeah, go right. He has several observations. Go right ahead.
Hi, I've been in the proposal business for at least 25 years. This is a very short, concise thing, but it doesn't say anything really that has a lot of, in the sales business, you either have steak or sizzle. And personally, you can't eat sizzle. There's not enough steak here. And what I'm suggesting is this should not just be on a blank piece of paper, but it should be a stationery. I know that sounds old fashioned, but when you want to make an impact, you have to also have something like we've been in business, satisfying zoo owners and the world since 1989 or something like that. And the other thing is, there is no reference really of, if you don't want to take our word for it, please, here are attached letters of recommendation that we have had over the last 20 years that would, show you that we are qualified to be somebody you should consider.
That is a great point. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier about those client commendations or quotes or references. Yeah, that's a great point. Always make sure you ask for that permission ahead of time, and give them a heads up that that's coming in case they do call and ask on those references. But you're exactly right. This is pretty generic. There's not a lot of meat here. It's just a lot of, okay, that did nothing for me. So you guys did a great job. Thank you so much for raising your hands and speaking up for those of you who did. So again, I know it's a little bit silly, but when you really start to think of these things in smaller, silly terms, it's easier to grasp the bigger concept. All right, Hayley, I'll give it back to you, because besides good writing, you also have to have some graphics here, and she's going to talk about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Kat. So when it comes to graphics, I really follow 3 rules. The first one is the 10-second rule, which many of you are probably familiar with, but it basically states that if your audience cannot understand your graphic within 10 seconds of looking at it, then it's likely too complicated. And I know in our world, and I'm sure in yours, we often have complex process graphics, we have complex sequencing plans, site plans. And so we really try to either explain that graphic in a caption so that the audience can understand what we're trying to portray to them, or even split that graphic out into 2 or potentially even 3 graphics. The second rule that we like to follow is leave and you having your kickoff meeting, kind of letting it breathe a little bit, be sure to let your pages breathe as well. So make sure that you're not cramming as much text as you possibly can on a page. Take it from us, we work with engineers. Engineers in our experience, they are extremely talented, they're extremely knowledgeable, and they often think that the more we can put on a page, the more knowledgeable we look. So we're always working to give the page a little bit of space and not be afraid of that white space. To go along with that, the third rule that we follow is make sure there's some type of graphic on every page of your proposal. It doesn't have to be a complex process graphic. It can be something as simple as a call out of a client commendation like Matthew mentioned. It can be a call out box of a key piece of your process or of your approach that you want the client to make sure they don't skip over. But whatever it is, make sure you have something on each page to catch the reader's attention as they go through not only your proposal, but likely 10, 20, potentially even 30 proposals that day. And I know a lot of times when people hear the word graphics, they think, oh, we have to invest time and money into a really expensive graphic software, or we need to hire a graphic designer. And that's just not the case. We're big believers in using what you have. There are tons of tools out there these days that are graphic design for non-graphic designers. One of those is Bright Carbon. They've built their business on presentation design, which really means that they've spent their entire business developing graphics in PowerPoint. PowerPoint's very accessible to all of us. They have great blog posts on their websites, great webinars that you can attend for free, all about how to build graphics in PowerPoint. The second tool that I'll highlight is the 24-hour company. So Mike Parkinson is a friend of ours through APMP, and he's built his entire career basically on developing graphics in PowerPoint, which is pretty hard to believe. That just goes to show how talented he is. And his company has a tool called Build a Graphic, which is a PowerPoint add-in. It costs a little bit of money, but it's not too expensive, and it really helps you make professional graphics quickly and easily just in PowerPoint. So just like Bright Carbon, 24-hour company has their own set of blogs and webinars that I would encourage you all to check out. All right, so we've had our kickoff, we've planned our proposal, we've written our proposal, we've added our graphics. And now it's time to review our proposal. As I mentioned before, I hope that each of you are having a thorough review before you send any document out the door, but I understand that that's not always the case. From my time being an APMP, it's something that can often get overlooked, but we're strong believers in having that break point where the entire team comes together, reviews a cohesive document, and really looks at it for more than just proofreading and spelling. That's something that your proposal manager can handle. That's something that you can do through an editor or something like that. And we really think that the review period should be focused on compliance and responsiveness. You can have the best message in the world, but if you're not compliant or responsive to the RFP, it doesn't really matter what your message says. So we use this time to identify any deficiencies and as a source for everyone to come together and provide recommendations for improvement and really get to the heart of what Kat was talking about, which is the why us and so what of our document. So I'm going to turn it over to Cliff and let him bring us home. So after we've reviewed the proposal, we submit it, and then Cliff has some tips on what to do after that.
You bet. Thanks, Hayley. So just when you think you're done, not quite yet. So don't just file your proposal. Don't file all your information that you got before. Forget about it. Follow up with the client. So inevitably, there's after your submittal, whether you win or lose, you get a debrief from your client. You continue to improve and continue to show your interest. There's almost always another project right around the corner. So pick yourself up if you on your last loss or come down from the clouds on your last win, but get ready for the next one. Also do an internal debrief. Talk about what worked, what didn't work, especially if this is a new process for you, and then refine your process. So it's a learning process. You want to take your lessons learned, whether you win or lose. Talk to your client, get your debrief, and refine your process. But make it repeatable. That's the key piece of it, is make it to where you're in control of your pursuits. So we've gone over a lot of stuff today and a lot of different steps. But at the end of the day, we think it's a pretty simple game that comes down to some basic fundamentals. Identify what the client needs, develop a solution to meet those needs. Build meaningful relationships, and deliver everything we do with excellence. Then rinse and repeat. Develop that process so you now have the process where you're in control, understanding the opportunities, finding the opportunities, and develop a proposal that fits your organization for the right client. Kevin?
Hey, yeah, Cliff, real quick. We had a question from Zach, and I think it's really important to answer this now since you just touched on it. But he was wondering how long you should wait before you follow up with the client. And do you do a call, an email, or you do both?
That's a great question, Zach. And I think that all depends on your client. If you've worked on your relationship, you're probably comfortable just calling the client and asking them, what can you do different? The other thing is a lot of clients or a lot of cities, you're not allowed to talk to them until after they negotiated the project with whoever won it. So you may have to wait a little while on that one. So it kind of just varies in what your comfort level is with that client.
Yes, and they'll definitely tell you if there's a cone of silence in place.
So yeah, kind of wrap this thing up from an estimator's perspective. A lot of you maybe you're estimating and writing proposals, or maybe you only have one or two other people that you can lean on. So don't make your lives more complicated. Keep it simple. Have a process like our team has discussed today, and make it a repeatable process, like Cliff said. Keep it as simple as you can, because you're also busy trying to estimate projects and win work the old-fashioned way with numbers and not writing. So keep your life simple. And communication is absolutely key. Like I touched on earlier with Hayley's great slide early on in the presentation, having that proposal schedule and knowing when your deadlines are, and setting expectations and setting deadlines internally to make sure that at the end of the day you're hitting that goal of completion and turning this thing on time. And communication within that is so key. And then teamwork, we touched on that a lot. You may be a one-stop shop. Maybe you're the estimator and the proposal writer, so maybe this doesn't apply to you. But there are still ways you can get help. You can talk to people. and try to draft an RFP that at the end of the day works really well. But teamwork is so key. And then developing that process that works for your company, just like we've repeated so many times, have a process. That is so important to not have to pick up an RFP and read it and start from scratch every single time. So have that process. It'll really, really save you a lot of time, a lot of headache. And then again, back to the teamwork and everything else. Find some help when you need it. Don't try to do everything. I know early in my career, I was kind of a hoarder, and I wanted to, I was so driven to win. I was afraid that if I didn't do everything, we weren't going to win. And over the years, I realized that that is not the case. You are more likely to win when you have assistance or when you have a team involved, because you get so many different perspectives and you get so many ideas. It amazes me all the time how our proposal team may not understand a technical part of a job, but they've done this so much and they've been involved with so many, they understand the process, and they always bring up really good points. Well, hey, what about this? What about that? And a lot of times it turns out to be things that help us win. So get the help and have a team if you can. So
Yeah, that's a
Kevin,
really
are you
great
saying
point,
we
Kevin.
could be engineers by night?
I'm sorry.
I said, are you saying we could be engineers by night in our second job?
You know what? You have absorbed a lot of this stuff by osmosis, right?
We do. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Kat.
I was going to say, Cliff, take note. I'm going to expect a raise tomorrow.
I'm here to help Cliff.
But Kevin, you brought up a great point, and that's to enlist help when you need it. So we have a few resources here. Shipley and Associates is a great company. They really do a lot of training. They'll do one-on-one learning. They'll even have a corporate trainer come out. So if your team is at that point where you're like, okay, we need someone to help us develop a process and really increase our win rate, they offer those services. Right now, they've also been offering a lot of free webinar training, so definitely check it out. And they're very specialized and specific to the actual proposal development. So if you're really in charge of that, I highly encourage you to look at that. Also APMP. So APMP is the Association of Proposal Management Professionals, and it's an international organization. Hayley and I are both on the board for the Greater Midwest chapter, and it's been a really, I can't say enough good things about the organization because they provide so many resources, whether that's webinars, mentorships, they have conferences and symposiums, but really it's quite affordable too. And right now, because we had to cancel a lot of chapter little symposiums across the country, they're offering a deal, and it's I think it's like $125. But it's like a 2-day workshop in July, and it's much like this Zoom where you can go out into different tracks. So if you're more on the bid and sales side, you can go and do that. Or if you're on the proposal side, you can go and do that track as well. But what's really great is they have all of these resources and templates to get started. So if you don't have a go, no go process, they've got something for you to get started on that. So maybe check that out. Might be worth the cost for your team or your group. If not, you can easily buy a copy of the Writing Business Bids and Proposals for Dummies that APMP put out last year. I think it's only about 20-ish bucks. So again, lots of great resources and how-tos in there as well. So definitely check those out. Cliff, and I think you have a few others. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to chime in, shameless plug for APMP. The price for that 2-day conference, I think, is $179, but the price for a year-long membership is $125. So the price point is very affordable for all sizes of organizations. If you have one person that's a member, you get access to all of those templates and best practices that Kat mentioned and that we've really built our process off of.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, there's a couple other resources that I like to go to. One, since the stay-at-home policy, I've been trying to take daily walks and really started listening to some podcasts. So there's a couple of good podcasts out there. And the second thing is the how to win friends and influence people. That's almost like a Bible, I think, for sales. And I gave it to my 15-year-old son, who I'm sure you're wondering if he won his bid, which he didn't win his bid. I just looked at his proposal, but I gave this to my son, and the first thing he said to me as he read the first 10 pages, "Dad, this is so obvious." And as you read it, it's obvious, but I like to keep it next to my next to my desk or computer, because it really is like a Bible. It's just a reminder of things that you need to do to be interesting to people, and then to be interesting for you too. So just a couple of different resources.
Yep. All right, thank you guys so much. We will open it up for some questions, but we just want to leave this little challenge here. We always like to end our presentations with a challenge and really get you thinking, okay, now what's going to happen next? So really think about something you learned today and something that you're going to take home and implement in your process starting tomorrow or Monday. But at this time, if you guys have any questions, we'll stay on the line and we're happy to answer those for you.
Kat, do you want to put our contact information up too? That way, if
yeah.
people have any other questions, they can email.
For sure.
Just to clarify, yes, we will be sending this presentation out afterwards to everyone who attended. So you'll get those slides. Don't worry about that. I am double checking to see if we'll actually make the video available as well, because we are recording this. And yeah, no pressure to all of you speakers out there. But we are recording this. And so we'll find out whether we will be sending this out to everyone as well. But the slides, definitely. And then we did have a couple questions come through the chat. The first one was from Zach Thompson. He wants to know, what do you think is the #1 thing of doing a presentation or a proposal or estimating? What is the #1 thing?
I think I'll give my quick answer. And of course, my perspective is going to be a little bit different, but it's always about the client. It's not really about us. So always think about what it is they need or want, whether that's in your writing, those conversations you're having ahead of time, really trying to get that information from them, because there's nothing better than having that information and then they're reading a proposal and going, oh, wow, they listened. They get it. They understand me. So that's my thought, but I know Kevin and Cliff and Hayley, you guys may have another opinion.
Yeah, I think I would echo what Kat says, is understand your client, understand what they need and what they want. You could put a whole bid together where you think that you're assuming a lot of things, but if you don't understand the client, you may be wasting your time.
Great. And then Brenna Gray asked, how do you give good quality estimates for construction drawing jobs?
Oh, Kevin, I'll take
Kevin.
that one.
Yeah.
Kevin.
I'm kidding. You don't want me answering a math question.
So I think I understand the question. #1, you have to know the job, right? Understand the project. I tell young estimators, when you first get a set of plans, so many of them want to dive in and find your scope of work and just start trying to do a takeoff. And I tell them, learn the project first. Take the time to flip through the entire set of drawings and understand the entire project, because that way you're going to develop a better understanding of how your scope of work fits into that project. So I think the first thing you want to do is know the job. And the second thing you want to do is to have a quality takeoff. And by that, I mean you want it to be accurate and as detailed as possible, because when a owner looks at a proposal and they look at a price, one of the first things they want to know, and Cliff and the proposal team can attest to this, is they want to know, well, what's in this price? What is in this number? And if you don't have a good answer and can't qualify or explain your scope of work thoroughly, then an owner's not going to want to hire you. So I think those two things: #1, learn the project first off, and then have a good quality takeoff and understanding of the scope.
Thank you. Stephanie wants to know, what software do you use for estimating?
So there are a lot out there. In Burns & Mac, we use multiple different types of softwares depending on what discipline it is being estimated. Our electrical estimators have a certain software they use. Our mechanicals have some. Some of us still use Excel spreadsheets, but there are a lot of good different softwares out there. I would suggest just do some searching on the market. I really don't have one that I would recommend over another. It's really everybody's own preference and budget, because you can spend a lot of money or you can spend a little money. But on the more expensive side, you got Hard Dollar and you got Heavy Bid, and on the less expensive side, you've got like ConEst, and you've got Sigma estimates and things like that. They're very affordable and easy to set up. So it really just kind of depends on the level of your technical expertise and how much money you have.
Great. Mike Raymond had actually asked, this is a very specific question: does drone aerial imagery help get the job in the proposal process?
So I'll take the first part of this, and maybe the team will chime in. So I had personal experience with Mike, as a matter of fact, and a project that we pursued for the city of Kansas City, Missouri a few years back. And his drone work absolutely helped us win this project. The site had a huge pile of asphalt shingles stockpiled on it, and the owner didn't know the quantity. Nobody knew how to quantify it. So we engaged Mike to take his drone and fly over the site. And through the software advances in drone technology, he was able to create a topographic image and digitally calculate exactly how many cubic yards were on that site. And I'm absolutely convinced that because of that knowledge, we were able to be more efficient and cheaper on removing the material than our competition.
There's definitely been a lot more drone usage in the past 2 years, I would say, not only for the proposal, but for interviews also. So I think that any type of technology that's coming out, drones, Cliff, I know you use a couple other types. It's really all about efficiency and being able to know the project a little bit better and be able to show that we know it a little bit better than our competition. So I don't see those types of technology devices going away anytime soon.
No.
Right. And I think, Kevin hit on it too. It really, it gave a benefit to the client. Nobody could quantify how much was there. And by being able to provide them that solution, they really saw the value in that. So,
yeah. Good question.
Awesome. Lonnie wants to know, what is your practice for bids that come in 20% or more lower?
So that's always a red flag, right? It doesn't mean it's always bad. Sometimes it's just fine, but it's definitely a red flag. It definitely catches our attention. And so we certainly will reach out to that subcontractor or supplier, it could be either one, and schedule a meeting and sit down and go thoroughly through the scope of work to make sure they understand what they proposed on. And sometimes you find out they didn't understand, or sometimes you find out they actually left something out of their bid that's very important. And there's been other times when they completely understand the project, have a complete scope, and we hired them and they executed the job perfectly. So just because it's low, that low doesn't mean it's bad, but it should definitely raise a red flag. And it definitely requires, a vetting process.
Awesome. I will give one more question. If anybody else has questions, please chat them in or we will call it a day. Monica and Jerry both asked, what is the most common mistake made in estimating or project management? Probably not project management, estimating or PM.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Monica and Jerry both wanted to know, what is the most common mistake made in estimating or PM?
Missing scope. Missing, bad takeoff, busting quantities, or just flat missing something. The old saying is, you're never low unless you leave something out of your bid, right? I think everybody can attest to that. So, hey, we all make mistakes. I've been there. I'm not perfect. I've had my fair share of mistakes in my career, but I've tried to learn from them, move on, and not make that same mistake twice. So hopefully over time you perfect your estimating craft and it gets better and better. And those mistakes become fewer and fewer and less in severity, right? But nobody's perfect. There's always something you're going to find in an estimate. But the biggest one is flat missing something, or missing a quantity, not taking it off correctly.
Well, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate this. It was a great event. Thank you everyone to attending. Thank you, to all the presenters. If everybody wants to give a round of applause or thank them in the chat, thank you so much. That was great. You were very engaging. I love the text messaging aspect and the voting of it. So thanks to everybody for attending the first virtual event from the American Society of Professional Estimators. This was proposal management for estimators. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our sponsor. Thank you to everybody for showing up. Thank you, Eric. Eric, anything you want to say before?
I want to thank Cliff, Kat, Hayley, and Kevin for doing this. I've been to 3 Zoom events in the last week. This was by far the best one I've been to. And the reason why is it's been so interactive, okay? It wasn't just a bunch of people droning on about their expertise. You guys crushed it, okay? So that was the best Zoom. And thank you, Luke, for putting it all together. But this has been the best Zoom event I've been to yet. So this is the future of Zoom events, guys. And you guys are definitely a professional proposal writing team. I just enjoyed it. And Kevin came to me and said, Eric, I've got to bring my team on to show how this was really done. So Kevin, thank you for all your time presenting to my, you did 2 presentations at the Estimating Academy. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you, Cliff. You guys just really, this is the best I've ever seen, bar none. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you so
It was
much.
a pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a great time doing it.
And
Yeah.
thank you, Kevin, for getting us engaged. We really had
Yeah.
a good time.
Well, Eric had said that this is a subject that lacks appropriate attention, and I said, I have just the team for you.
Hey guys,
I'm visiting here from ASPE 2 Golden Gate in San Francisco. I just want to thank Chapter 32, Eric Soriano, for the invitation.
you're quite welcome. And one last shout out to Luke Wade with Community Curator. This guy, he put it all on for us. He did way above and beyond. Thank you, Luke. Hold your hand up.
Everybody clap. Round of applause.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to put on an event, use Luke because he made it really simple for us, okay? Thank you.
Yes, he really did.
I'm just happy I could be involved and make sure you guys got the information you're looking for in a fun and engaging way, because that's the new life we live in, and I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you for attending. Thank you to ASPE. Thank you to Burns and McDonnell. Thank you to all of you. Great event, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.